Okay. Hello, great people who joined us, even though we are in July and August. We know that these dates are not as easy, but good day, good morning, good noon, and good afternoon, good night to all of us. We're going deeper and deeper into the AI KM connection. Last week we spoke with Tony, or Tony spoke with us, but 2 weeks ago, Annie showed us how the KM, or the knowledge manager, can help the project manager. But when we meant that KM and AI are integrated and the KM can give added value, we must tell and we must share the ideas of communities, of having a knowledge base, whatever Annie spoke about. But that's giving service to someone else. What we started speaking before and what we'll continue to be speaking today, next week, and the week after are not how we give KM services to AI as outsiders, rather how we have a very important role in the AI project itself. Not only as a KM that gives services and say, hey, you can have a community, or it's important for you to know who the experts are, but rather to be part of the project itself, to change our hats and coming with our KM abilities and capabilities, and knowing that it's all data. As Tony said last week, he said it's easy to embed KM people if we speak in terms of AI, data, and knowledge integrated. And if we explain that it's all about knowledge, it's much easier. So that's why a few weeks ago, Art spoke about the data content management. Was it Art or Annie? I don't remember already.
It was Annie.
Annie, I'm sorry. And the coming 3 weeks, Art will speak about additional tasks that are tasks of the AI project. And we as KMers are at least good as others, and in many cases, I would say even better in taking responsibility for these tasks. So after, I hope you are now all curious, we will start with these 3 sessions, and Art, please give us the framing, tell us what they are about, and start with your opening question. You gave us a very nice task, a pre-work task, so we are all with you. Art, please start.
All right, let me share my screen. That sets the table very nicely, Moria. Thank you. And okay, everybody can see this? We're up. Session 16. Mapping problems, opportunities, and risks to KM enhanced AI. Like Maria said, KM is embedded now as part of the AI team. But today we'll look at, as you'll see, business needs, real problems, opportunities, and risk from the business standpoint, from the business point of view. And yeah, hopefully you had a chance to do this. I gave you one article to read, but even at a minimum, the introduction to that article spells out specific AI challenges. And so that was really what I want everybody to think about before today's session. Hopefully you discovered in that reading and in your own exploration, there is no shortage of challenges that AI is facing, because AI is not the panacea that everybody expects. They look at it as this bright, shiny object, but reality, there are obstacles and many challenges that need to be overcome. Many of them technical, but many of them also having to do with human nature. And so no shortage, and definitely KM can help, as I hope we'll all agree, and we will show as we go into this. So that's the first part. And then selling KM to the executive leadership is always one of those challenges, and we'll go through that today as well. So just to summarize, when we're finished with this module, hopefully we'll have 2 parts. There'll be 2 purposes here: understanding how your organization or if you're a consultant, your client's organization or whatever your organization of interest is, how they're using AI and how KM can help AI become even more effective. That's the first goal. And the second would be then, having understood number one, how do you convince executive leadership to make the necessary investment, not just giving lip service to KM, but saying we really need to do this the right way, which of course requires investment in people and resources. And that always means convincing executive leadership. So we're going to look at ways to do that. Okay. We had some pretty good sessions on knowledge graphs, and this is a pretty crude graph, but just for fun, put together of our course, the 22 weeks of our course. And we have 4 modules: AI leveraging KM projects, KM leveraging AI projects, and closure. And we're now, believe it or not, about 2/3 of the way through our program. So we're moving in toward the end here. And so in this module, that our next 3 sessions, as Maria mentioned, are part of this KM Leveraging AI Projects module. And you see, we're at session 16, and it has 4 parts that we will do today. What are the classes of problems suitable for AI? What are the AI challenges that KM can help solve? What are candidate AI supported business needs and critical decisions? And then how do you work with executive management? So using this little knowledge graph as our guide, let's go right into it and start with what are the classes of problems suitable for AI? Okay, everybody with us? Great. So KM enhanced AI, when we use that term, we're dealing with knowledge in several places. First of all, your organization's AI and machine learning systems. And keep in mind, I'll bet no organization is without AI in some way. If you have Siri on your mobile devices, you have AI. So you might say right away, oh no, we don't have AI. We have just some straight business tools. No, odds are there's some form of AI or machine learning in whatever systems you have. And especially that's important to keep in mind because there is a major trend now toward what's called hyper automation. And that is true. I just saw a recent report from Deloitte. They said right now, at this point in time, over 50% of organizations have adopted hyper automation. And they're saying within the next 5 years, we'll be up near 100%. So this is here. This is becoming ubiquitous.
Senti Marghi, io dopo questa call ho
Just a
finito.
minute, I want to mute everyone and please unmute yourself.
Voglio, ti faccio un giro.
Just a
Sono le
minute.
mezza.
Yep.
Sei in video?
Sorry.
No. Diverso paio poi no.
Please,
Okay, that's
please
good.
continue.
Okay, all clear. The second, of course, is you still have knowledge in your subject matter experts' minds, the minds of your people, that tacit knowledge. And then, of course, you have, in addition, just if you wanted to narrow it down, there's knowledge in your project management and AI DevOps processes. And these are the people that we're going to be teaming with and helping. So the point here is there's knowledge everywhere. Some of it is explicit knowledge in the terms of code and algorithms and rules, business rules. Some of it is much of it is still tacit in SMEs' minds, and much of it is embedded within your own business processes. All right, so there's the spectrum. Just a quick word about hyperautomation, because we were talking about this before we started in the pre-conversation. Hyperautomation is not taking everything and digitizing it, because much of what we do is still very inefficient. We're a legacy from the old paper systems of our old information age. So just to take all of this paper stuff that we do and digitize it, well, if you were inefficient before, wonderful. Now you can be inefficient at the speed of light. No, it doesn't make much sense. So hyperautomation is, and this is where we're talking about where we want to go and where KM can help. The definition here, as put by in this book, which I've cited here, is definition of hyperautomation: achieving a business outcome through a redesigned automated process with no or minimal human intervention. But the second part of hyperautomation is creating a software-based digital workforce working hand in hand with a human workforce. And so this AI, as AI continues to evolve, will create its own workforce. And then we'll have to figure out as KMers, we're probably the best people to figure out, okay, how do we have that digital workforce and the human workforce work together in a better and more effective way? Okay, now, what are the touch points? Where can we, where does AI have its greatest impact, which then would be of interest to us as KMers? Um, as we know as KMers, our KM impact is greatest at the points of decision, right? With good knowledge management, I can help people make decisions. And so you have different models. You say, okay, where do we insert our KM and our AI? And one is called the OODA loop, the OODA loop. And if you've ever done any work with the military, you've probably have seen this. OODA means observe, orient, decide, and act. Okay, that's the cycle. I have sensory information coming in. I determine what that's all about. I make a decision of what course of action I should take given this, and even to do nothing is a course of action. And then I carry out that action and observe the changes from that. Here's the thing. Each of these steps have many other sub-steps. So on the observation side, data is coming in from various sensors, and I have to make decisions, which, I can't observe everything. So which sensors do I crank up the sensitivity? Which ones do I filter out? How do I tag and track those objects or those trends that I want to track? All of those involve decisions. Those are entry points. And right now, AI is playing a major part in this part of observation. Now we go over to orientation. I try and match patterns. I say, what's coming in? Where have I seen this before? What is it telling me? And again, from the military world, they have something called SIT awareness, right? Say, what are the conditions? What are the threats? What are the opportunities here? Where can I be at an advantage, and where can the enemy be at a disadvantage, and vice versa? How can I run trend analytics on what I'm observing, and then determine, make that determination? Now, decide, make a decision. This is also where I need AI tools to help remind me of things, because there's so many things going on. I might have forgotten something that a pattern that occurred before and we had a good resolution to, and I may be going down the wrong path. So you have in the act of deciding and generating a decision, you certainly have all of these places that you can insert AI and KM. And then carrying out that action finally. Again, a lot of those actions now are carried out in automated fashion in this new world of hyper-automation. You want to make sure that those decisions are carried out and executed in a consistent manner, and of course of high quality with the fewer possible errors. So here's the universe of where, and then there's communication. You have to communicate across all of these phases. Now, the point here is when you enter into an arrangement with KM and AI, this should be the focus. What is the model? What is the decision model that your organization or your client organization uses? This is just one. John Lewis, who's here with us in his book, he's listed 30 of them. So I just list this here just as a point saying you don't have to use that OODA loop, right? You can use any others that your organization is using. Maybe they're using Agile, okay? Point is, take whatever model they have and use it. And you can refer to John Lewis's work and on his website, but he's built a 6-stage model, which is a little better. And we've kind of liked this, and we've adopted this a little bit more than OODA. You have an automation. Here's where things are now at automation. This is where we're happy. Everything's running smoothly, but a disruption comes along. We then we're forced to investigate and question. The natural tendency is when the disruption comes along, oh no, we don't want to do that. We react and say, nope, that'll never work. Let's go back here where we're comfortable. But you push across investigation, come up with new ideas, create some expectation, and then you can test and do that, build a prototype or a pilot, test it, and you get affirmation. And then you say, well, guess what? This actually does work. And we can put that now into, and we can make that our new baseline, automate that. So here's a little bit more involved process, but much better in terms of the different phases. And again, each one of these has multiple touch points. John calls this story thinking. Each of these stages have multiple touch points for AI and KM. And here we've overlaid, and this is also I've taken from John's book, some of the types of systems that we've looked at in our vendor, in our vendor presentations and in our previous classes of this course. AI, as you see, can plug into any of those places. All right. One more thing. It's important.
Hey, Art, we got an
Yes.
interesting question.
Sure.
Why evaluation is missing in both AI ladder and OODA loop?
Why valuation is missing?
Evaluation. Mhm.
I think my personal
It's not,
understanding is evaluation is in each of these. You know, you observe here, and and if I understand the question correctly, I have to make sure that the quality of that data, what is the quality of the data? What is the assurance, right? Am I then making the correct interpretations, in my orientation phase? Am I making the right decisions based on past history and based on maybe simulations of the impact of that new decision? That's an evaluation. And then, of course, I'm acting at how well all of the different metrics that I use to measure the execution, both the quality and timeliness and effectiveness of the execution. So does that answer your question in terms of evaluation? It comes into all of them. Here's another, let me go to this slide, because again, this helps you look back at that. Very often, you will find an AI system and it will be carrying out its algorithms. It could be determining whether to, what stocks or what securities to buy and sell given certain parameters. And it's making these decisions for you, and you say, where did that come from? Or even now, we see that policies and in government, broad sweeping decisions are made about whether to lock down or not lock down, wear masks or not wear masks. And people are scratching their heads saying, where the heck did that come from? So one thing that KM can really help with is and this again comes from John Lewis's model. He's created something called an option outline. As you go through each of those phases, those 6 phases, you're faced with decisions and choices. What very often doesn't happen is those decisions and choices are not documented. They're just made, and you hop on to the next phase, and you make those decisions and you hop on to the next phase. What's important is, and this is part of the evaluation, I think, how do you make sure you track each step, the decisions that are made and the choices that were evaluated at each step of the way. That's valuable knowledge that very often gets discarded. Computer programmers know that. The good programmers will put comments in. They'll build their code will be loaded with comments. But AI doesn't necessarily do that, and we KMers need to do a better job of that. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, time and here's some more references. Okay, where to apply? Where can we apply KM and AI? Here's a good way to look at it. There are different parameters. Clearly, the time scale is one. So where do we apply? We can look at time. And of course, we have a wide spectrum. There are things that happen slowly, and we can look at applying KM and AI, and things that happen quickly. So just to give you an example from different industries, in the financial world, we mentioned this already, you have computerized trading. Well, portfolio balancing is more strategic. I'm planning a portfolio for somebody who are in their 20s, and I want them to be comfortably retired when they reach 50 or 60 or whatever age. And then there's the frequency trading. Computerized trading is going on in the stock exchanges and in the brokerage houses now in milliseconds. All right, so that's high speed. In the military, same kind of thing. The war gaming is going on where the generals are planning their strategies, but then you've got autonomous weapons, drones, micro drones that are operating in swarms, making instant decisions, right? Manufacturing, same kind of spectrum. There's the large supply chain. How do I line up my supply chain and all of its components? And how do I make things instantly, one at a time, but everyone unique and everyone instantaneously, just in time? Transportation, okay? We're a lot of talk, at least in the US right now, if those of you who've been following what's going on in the US, infrastructure is hot on everybody, is a hot topic. And then autonomous vehicles that have to make instantaneous decisions about what's safe, whether to proceed at what speed, and in medicine, of course, we know. So point here again, no shortage of opportunities for us KMers. When people are saying, well, is KM is still going to be around? Yes, it better be, because there's no shortage of opportunity, okay? And yet here's another list, and you'll get these slides. I don't got to go through all these. I want to really bring home that there are all kinds of requirements for AI. Has to be repeatable, traceable, like that crumb trail we mentioned, learnable, right? So these are all the great adjectives of what AI has to do in order to perform well. But there are struggles, okay? And in your reading assignment, you saw some of these. Data, it's junk, garbage in equals garbage out across different platforms, different languages, different interpretations. AI is still not very good. AI knows a symbol. You give AI a symbol, it'll recognize that as a symbol, but it may not know, it definitely rarely knows the semantics behind it, the context behind those symbols and algorithms. So those are challenges, right? And AI doesn't always know what's missing or incorrect. Sometimes AI will just shut down if there's something missing, okay? So hopefully that gives you the landscape of the wide range of classes and problems suitable for AI, right? Now, what challenges can KM help solve? Here's a good way of looking at that. Do you know that, are you familiar with the 5 V's? The 5 V's of information. It's volume, velocity, variety, value, and veracity. And we'll go through them right now, so don't worry about writing them down. So let's go through each of those 5 V's, each one having a challenge, and I'll just throw out one of many possible KM solutions. The volume, as we know, of data and information that's coming in is overwhelming. The tendency, though, is to say, oh, we'll let AI sort it all out. And people are kind of delegating or offloading this volume problem to AI. That doesn't always give you the right solution. There's always there's a need for human judgment and sense making. AI can give you all kinds of conclusions, and maybe 9 out of 10 of them are good, but there's always that one that doesn't make sense. You need the human judgment, and that's where KM can come into play. The high speed, again, people say, oh, things are happening too fast. We have to let the algorithms make these choices for us because it's just happening too fast. But there's a risk associated with that. So therefore, we as KMers can work with the subject matter experts and the AI people, say, wait a minute, don't delegate everything to the machines. Let's establish some thresholds and parameters to keep those human decision makers in the loop where necessary, not all the time, but for those thresholds that are established where the risk is high, we need human decision makers. Perfect place for KM. The wide variety, as you know, AI tends to be very narrow in the domains that it operates in, okay? But the real world is multi-domain, right? Very complex and interrelated. Again, KMers, we know we're ontologists, we know taxonomy. We can help the AI people with the semantics and put situational context and meaning into what we're doing and into the algorithms they're building. Hope this is making sense. Veracity, of course. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to wait till you finished that. I thought you were close to finish.
All right. Yeah, we got 2 more things here. 2 more
Mhm.
V's. Veracity. Okay. Where did that come from? You want to make sure that provenance is established. AI people don't necessarily do that. KMers, we're very good. whether it be our communities of practice or wherever we do knowledge capture, where we definitely know our best practice is to establish and maintain that provenance. Where the heck did that knowledge come from? And why do we choose that instead of something else? And then the value, right, is the final thing of all this information and knowledge floating around, which has the highest value. And by the way, we're going to see that these last two are really the ones, if you want to sell our KM and AI to executive leadership, these are the ones that really get their attention. You don't want erroneous making decisions based on wrong knowledge and wrong information. And you only want to be doing, you can be doing a whole bunch of things. What are the things that have the greatest value? Okay, Annie. Annie, did you
My
have something?
cursor,
I
my
just
cursor
want to
couldn't.
say that it's a brilliant slide. Every time I read it, when you prepared it now, it's brilliant art.
Yeah, but I give Moria the credit. Moria, you gave us the title for that slide when we were building it, driving AI crazy. Annie, did you have something?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions to see if you wanted to stop and take
Sure,
those
let's
questions.
do it.
Regarding the previous question, the who asked it was not comfortable with it. They said, hence AI is not like switching off and on the light bulb. Evaluation question is meant here. A, has revenue increased for the organization, and B, has customer people, stakeholders have received the kind of benefits that AI services promise. So I think, and you can expand on it, that this person's looking for why isn't performance management included, where you loop back to the goals and the objectives, and then
coming. It's coming. It's coming.
Okay. So that's coming. So
yeah, we're forced. There's one thing I haven't figured out yet is how to, when you do things serially, what do you put first? What do you put second? What do you put third? If I do not answer that question at the end, let's put that at the top of the list to make sure that that question has been answered by the end, by the conclusion of this. Okay.
Okay.
Getting into that, actually, that's probably a good lead into here. So in many data analytics is all the rage. AI, machine learning is all the rage. So people are organizations are hiring these data analytics people, data scientists, AI developers, and they're cranking away. And the question, and they're building these algorithms, and it isn't always transparent. First of all, so the questions that we can help answer are these the right data inputs going in? Garbage in equals garbage out. And here's the big question I ask senior leadership and executive leadership. Do you know exactly what's going on in here, how it got there, and why? Because very often these people are cut loose to do whatever they want. And what's the outputs? Are the outputs really relevant? Are they the answers you're looking for, or the things that you really need help with? Which, remember, our theme, decisions. Everything we do as KMers should be aimed at helping decision makers make better decisions. Do you know even what decisions those outputs are used for? And here's the big one, probably, and even relevant to your question. Are you aware of the possible downstream consequences? Because the more you automate and the more you back away and let the machines do it, we have seen already instances where whatever the machine decided, as that rippled through, oops, downstream, all of a sudden you see something wrong that you overlooked because you didn't have the right inputs, or that you weren't looking at the right outputs. So this is the whole spectrum that we need to be involved in. Not, whereas AI people tend to be focused in this box here, we need to spread, we can help spread their awareness out across the whole spectrum, which is necessary. Not having clear answers to these questions gives you liabilities, risk, upside and downside risk. Upside risk, missed opportunities, right? And again, this is the kind of stuff that executive leadership goes crazy about. This will be again on your handout. We're not going to do this now, but normally when we're doing this in a workshop, we'll have the opportunity, a full-blown half-day workshop, to do these exercises. I'm throwing some of the exercises we use in our workshops in here, so you can kind of take them aside and think about them, because it's good to. I hopefully you just don't take all. I'm throwing a lot of information your way, as we always do in these presentations. Annie goes just has everything very rich, and hopefully I'm doing the same. But you need to. I recommend stepping aside, and here's an example of an exercise just to think about everything that's been presented, and settle back and think about it. So, along those lines, think of a critical decision in your organization that you make or your organization makes that has important downstream consequences, and have you really identified the proper inputs, processes, and outputs? So begin to apply that thought process from this previous slide into a particular decision in your organization. That's my suggestion for some work after this. Keep in mind, and so here, this is another point I've been trying to bring home. Humans have all their we know what human qualities are, right? We know what machines can do, but watch out. Don't try to force machines to possess intuition and insight and foresight, right? And give them emotions, like in Star Trek, they gave Data an emotion chip. Don't even think about putting emotion chips. Now, reading emotions, yes, machines will be good at detecting, is somebody angry or somebody happy. But anyway, let machines do the computational work. Let humans do the insight and intuitional work. And by the way, each can teach each other. Humans can teach machines more, as we are doing, but let's reflect. Let's look at the output of machines and what is that teaching us, right? Both are more powerful together than any one alone. That's an important message, I think, to spread for our community, to spread as we get into and become more involved in AI. Okay. All right. So now, bridging the challenges that where can KM take these different areas that AI is struggling? Okay. Contradiction. AI can't handle contradiction very well. Then there's the volume, Internet of Things, Internet of Behaviors. There's that human behavior coming into play, right? Where's the bridge where KM? So here's this list of several of many challenges that AI faces, all the things that we do in KM, right? This is our bread and butter. We can bring these to bear in helping to solve these problems. So this is just a laundry list, a bridge between our world and the challenges AI is facing. I want to keep going, and we'll get into some examples, but again, as an exercise, take this to the side and think about, again, problems or opportunities where AI is attempting to solve. It's not quite solving it. What can KM do? So, think about that. I want to move on, and let's identify specific business needs and critical decisions that would be a good place for us to help out our people in the AI projects. This gets into this is a good tool. We've used it effectively for years, and I think it addresses, again, the problem of how do you relate to performance. It's also something we've learned in KM, and it's called alignment up, down, and across the organization. So very quickly, I'll click through this. Every organization should have a clear vision, where you're going, what you're trying to co-create, a mission. You're familiar with this flow down. It'll begin to become familiar with you. You have a vision statement. You have a mission, the impact you're going to have on the world or on your market. Then you set strategic goals, okay? You have, and then measurable steps to achieve those results are your objectives. So goals and objectives are, should be present in every organization. A strategy for aligning resources so that you can carry out those objectives and reach that mission and achieve that vision. And you can't do everything. Each organization will focus on particular performance drivers. So for some organizations, it may be a screaming efficient supply chain. For other organizations, their driver might be their R&D. They're always at the leading edge. No one organization can do it all, but every organization has 1, 2, or 3 key drivers that are going to make or break achieving that strategy. Then you've got down here in the working levels, core capabilities, your processes, and enablers such as technology and infrastructure and all that. As we KMers know, others might not, That's these bottom layers in particularly are broken up into tangible and intangible assets that we KMers know how to bring together, and you do this from top to bottom. Here's the point and why this is an effective tool, and I recommend. The tendency is always, you say, oh, you're a KMer. Yeah, we need help down here. We need help in fixing our AI development process, or or this particular project is in trouble. Okay, that's good. But very often the disconnects may occur because there's misalignment. What's going on down here is not aligned with the overall strategy and goals of the organization. So you need this top-down, bottom-up review periodically, and should always have it in mind. That helps you link what you're doing to the goals and objectives of the organization. Somebody, when we presented this one time, somebody actually used the term, they said, I know what you're doing. You're an organizational chiropractor. And I thought that was pretty good, because very often, like a patient coming in to see a chiropractor, they're way out of alignment, and the chiropractor helps to bend and shape them back into alignment. Okay, so that's a very important point I want everybody to remember. So now, how do I identify business needs, which is one of the two purposes of this presentation, identifying business needs and those critical decisions. So take that. Here's how we do it. So this should define success, but inevitably, if you set good goals and objectives, then obviously you haven't reached them. And so you say, all right, what challenges, what gaps are there that are preventing us or inhibiting us from achieving our goals and objectives the way we want to, achieving the level of performance that we want? What are those gaps? And when you can identify those gaps, but here's where KM comes in, the 5 whys, okay? The identifying root causes. We did this one time with an organization that was a very large organization that was complaining. They're saying, we can't reach our goals because we never get enough funding. So I said, okay, why don't you have enough funding? Well, because these other parts of the organization are always taking the funding. They get priority and we don't. I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, because they know how to, they just know how to do it. They know how to work the system. And I said, aha, you used the word know, okay? K-N-O-W. So you drill down enough, you identify a gap, drill down enough, and it'll likely be, you'll find the word know, if you're lucky, and it's either on the capture side, you don't know the knowledge that you have, or you have it, but it's not being shared, or you have the right knowledge and it's being shared, but it's not being applied properly, okay? Those are, ways that now that you've identified where are the gaps and the causes and conditions for those gaps, now you say, okay, I can match that up with a combined AI KM strategy with machines and humans working together, and then see what, and then we will get to the other part of the question the person had. How do I measure? How do I know that that's making an impact? We will get to that, okay? Easy though, low-hanging fruit. Again, this can get pretty complicated, and this is where we love to work on projects where we have the whole strategic team on board, but maybe not. There's low-hanging fruit out there. So here, and this I think addresses the question also. Defeating, you can always find performance and productivity killers. They're everywhere. So they're not hard to find. Here's some good metrics. Time it takes to make decisions. If it's taking too long to make decisions, that's an entree. And does your KM AI intervention help reduce that time? So you see the arrow going down. We want to reduce the time to decision, but we want the quality. We don't want the quality of the decision to go down. Remember, there's that old expression that still holds true today. Fast, good, cheap, pick 2. Okay, so you want to make it faster, all right, but it better be better also. Don't let the quality suffer. You improve these 2, and cost is going to go down, definitely, because you don't have to go back and do things over if you made a wrong decision. And capacity, your throughput should improve. If these top 3 items improve, your throughput for decision making should improve. Okay. And then here's another one. There are plenty. I thought of this when viewing our vendor presentations, there are plenty of, with the vendor tools that we have seen, you can take in all organizations are becoming more and more data driven. So there are plenty of signals, plenty of inputs. Remember, the right inputs come in there, including the discourse that is going on in projects, in organizations, right? You can take those and generate, as we saw with our vendor products, you can generate knowledge graphs out of all the stream of discourse and the streams of data. You can then generate knowledge graphs and see what are the connections, where are the disconnects, and even identify what's missing through data and text analytics. So there's a good range of no shortage, but here's some two ideas, an easy one and maybe a more challenging one of where you can insert KM and AI. Okay, moving. All right, so now here's the final part. Working with executive management. Okay, having done all that, executive management might not really care about all that's going down in the weeds and what data you're looking at, right? What does concern executive management? Well, in our experience, there are two things that the top people in an organization are concerned with and that you have to appeal to and address. Pain and pleasure, okay? Executives definitely hate pain, first of all. They try to avoid pain if at all possible. So our view here is, how do we help them avoid risks? They're worried about liabilities, lawsuits, in every organization. You know, somebody's getting sued about something. You don't want to have bad news, something that damages your reputation on the front page, all right, in the news, or the lead story in the news. This scares the daylights out of executives. And again, if you have that, if more and more decisions are being automated and you're delegating those decisions to machines, what do you think you're in odds of having one of these happen is beginning to slowly creep up? Disruption of, some new technology comes along the way. Shortages of talent and skills. We are experiencing that right now in the US and probably in other countries as well. Politics, of course, is always driving people crazy. Legal and regulatory environment, right? And missed opportunities due to things like digitalization or the new internet trends, okay? So that's one way to get, definitely the number one way to get executive management attention. Then, of course, how can you turn that pain into pleasure? Where instead of these, you're not getting a bad story, you're getting a good story. And this again is the notion of performance, growth, recognition, and contribution, right? So that's on the pleasure side. So let's get now into specifics. And I think this is the final part of the person's question. What do we measure? Okay, I gave you the decision times. Remember, time to decision, quality of decision. Those four metrics that I gave you earlier. Those are always good go-to metrics. But now we have KPIs, and we KMers in the early days of KM, remember when we built our communities of practice portals, we said, how many people are contributing and what number of contributions and how many people got 3 stars and 4 stars. All right, those are standard. That's not really going to help very much if we're talking about inserting what we're doing into the performance, the processes of an organization. So instead, here's what we have started doing. You have, hopefully, any place you're inserting AI and then KM, but definitely AI, there will be a well-defined process, right? A business model, a process model. Okay, so those you need to identify those, dig those out, get those out in the open. Now, map those to those processes where you're inserting our KM effort, right? It could be, creating better alignment by using taxonomy and ontology, okay? So we are inserting KM into an existing business process. That sets you up for and this I think was what that person was implying, or in the question, how do you link what we do in KM to the success of the AI project? But you can only do that if you have the AI project model, process model available to you. You have your own KM model, and then you find ways to link them together. So let me give you, and then formulate the appropriate KPIs. So instead of these old KPIs we used, new KPIs are formulated based on combining the process with our KM process. So let me quick give you an example. Here's the easy one. Chatbots, right? Chatbots are becoming quite ubiquitous. So you assume that there's an existing set of KPIs on the process side of the chatbot, and they tend to measure number of complaints, how many chats or cases required escalation, how many were resolved quickly, not resolved, what's the time to resolution. So you've got a whole bunch of KPIs for and metrics for chatbots. So here's the simple thing. You go through this process that we've talked about. Where are the gaps? Where are the challenges? Okay, what can we do in KM to help? And then we insert those KM interventions. And then now we simply go back to these KPIs here and measure, did KM have an impact over a certain period of time, right? This, by the way, is what executive leadership wants to see. They want to see real performance so they can measure ROI, right? And don't forget, this is why it's good to test, and we know we should be testing, because you might find inverse correlation, okay? And you say, oops, we don't want to do that. But by all means, measure based on those processes. So think about how can the specific KM connection and contribution be measured. And some examples are what percentage of escalated chats were captured and codified. In other words, we are good at capturing knowledge. And so if we can help the chatbot people continue to capture the refined knowledge of that expert, that IT person who all this stuff is in their head. And I've done this my own when I'm on the client end of a troubleshooting. Something's not working in my software, and I'm calling and I'm going through layer and layer and layer. I will keep at it, and finally I will find an IT person who had, I've seen this before, and they fix it, but it wasn't in their knowledge system. So there's a good example. I could have then, maybe I should have, I missed the business opportunity. I could have taken that IT person and said, hey, let me pick your brain and help you plug this back into your chatbot. There's where KM can fit in. So I hope everybody's seeing this. And so everything that we do, refining the knowledge that's in there and making those semantic connections and the things we're good at, putting context, because very often a lot of as you know, if you've called a help desk, very often the questions they're asking back of you are so totally out of context. Like, did you plug in is it plugged in, or did you shut down and reboot? Please, I go through all that, right? So, there's context that's important. Okay, and more. Total cost of ownership. We're still talking on the subject of dealing with executive leadership. They want to know total cost of ownership. Here's the important point, and we talked about this, I think, in the beginning with in our pre-discussion. We've talked about KM and AI and the AI project, but go back to that strategic flow down, that pyramid we talked about. You've got to be, and we KMers are probably the right people to do it, because when we do KM, we've learned we need to be working with the enterprise architects. We need to be working with HR, because they're where the talent training comes into play. Employee development. If you're talking about adding more knowledge, this is employees. And I don't care if it's all AI, we KMers can help the AI people determine those intangibles, or maybe the other aspects, the soft skills. See, AI people tend to have hard skills, very good, but they don't always have the soft skills to handle that human side, to draw out that tacit knowledge to put in the AI system. And we can help HR identify those skills so that they can hire people, train people, develop those people to do that. The financial side, security, right? Everything we do has to be under close security constraints, because we see all kinds of cyber attacks are escalating. R&D, DevOps, you get the point here, right? All across the organization, that has to be aligned. And I use the word ontologically here because guess what? All these people use different languages. So they need to be aligned, and who better to help make that alignment than we KMers? Now that kind of brings us to the end, because as I mentioned, these three sessions, today's, next Tuesdays, and the following week, are all tightly threaded together. So we're going to end here. Stay tuned. But let me give you a quick review. So hopefully we have achieved at least giving you an understanding, a way to know that how your organization is using AI and how KM can help. Hopefully there are so many, it's overwhelming, which is good, because that means there's no excuses. KM can definitely help. And then secondly, but in order to do it right, you need resources. And how do you convince executive leadership? And I hope that the metrics and the pain points we showed here will help you do that. Okay, a quick peek ahead. Next week, we take what we've done here now, identifying the business need. How do we knowledge engineer that? And data models and algorithms are the key to that, okay? So how do we get more specific, drill down? So we're gonna really have fun here, drilling down into those data, looking at that input data models and algorithms, and then how do you capture and codify the knowledge needed to continually improve? And that's our KM work, right? Working with subject matter experts, putting them into the system, and then designing a system for curating and applying that knowledge, which leads us to the final one, implementing and maintaining human and machine knowledge. And we say human and machine because you can't separate them anymore, okay? If you focus solely on the machine knowledge, this over here is always has something that can be added, especially as the technology grows and the machine knowledge gets more sophisticated. And so this is where we get into governance, right? In a rapidly changing world, you may have done those first two sessions, right? The business need, you've done the design, but now to keep the thing running smoothly and up with all the changes, that requires a good system of governance and curation. And we will do all of that wrap all of that up in session 18. And why do I keep emphasizing this human and machine knowledge the way we do? Well, guess what? Knowledge always begins and ends with people. And I don't care, even if it's machine learning, some human has got to put eyes on that. And no matter what, knowledge never, machine knowledge never manages itself. You will always need people to do that. So that's my closing message. I'll throw it open to questions, but in a minute, you've got and again, I will post these immediately after this session, and immediately after we're done. Here's some additional reading. Those of you, you probably know Cindy Gordon. There's a great article from Cindy that she had written in Forbes that addresses this very nicely, as well as a McKinsey report. Okay, so that's it. This is, I hope this has been useful for you. I'll open up the floor to questions. And here's there's some links here that you can go to also for other information. We've been doing the Enterprise of the Future program, and we've been publishing the future in KM World magazine now. We're coming up on our 100th article. So we've been doing that for almost 17 years. So you've got links to those resources as well. Okay.
Hey, Art, let me give the $1 million question that someone put out there.
Sure.
I just wonder, how did we get to the situation that we should explain KM donation to AI? How is it that most AI developers don't take advantage of KM abilities?
Annie, is it a question or?
Well, they both have
Maybe
questions. So I think he wants to expand
saying.
on that.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell you at least my observation as to why that is so, and it might have. And I draw back to other projects I worked with on KM, not involving AI, but you have technical people who are in their own technical world. And number one, they don't take kindly to people from outside their esoteric world coming in, telling them what to do. And they will say that to me. I don't appreciate people coming in telling me what to do. And I always say, I don't know where you got that idea, but we're not telling you what to do. I am here to help. Now they might say, yeah, just like the government, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. So yeah, there is, you have to really, I'll give you another example. I did a work with actually the FBI investigators. And if you ever saw the show Dragnet, you know, Sergeant Friday, they had this stone cold face. And so I had to meet with these FBI investigators and draw out their knowledge. What do you think that was like? They would sit across the table with their hands folded, staring at me with these stone cold faces, and their facial expression said, you don't understand. We're the FBI. We ask questions. Nobody comes in asking us questions. But that's the way I do my knowledge elicitation. It's all by questions. What did I do? I found out where they get together in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. They're in the croissant shop across the street from the headquarters building. I'm in there with them, you know, day after day after day, little by little, after eating croissants at 6 in the morning, they started opening up. So I just tell you that story. There are just natural cultural barriers. And sometimes you can show them the numbers, like show those performance things. Say, look, we can double what you're doing here, triple your effectiveness. Sometimes that'll get through, but other times you just have to sit down and slowly become friends with them. It's almost like dating, okay? It's very cultural and very human. And that's something I think we KMers at least hopefully have a little bit of a leg up in that we know how to handle those intangibles and those personal relationships, because they play a big part in overcoming that barrier. Does that answer your question, Annie?
Yeah, well, it was a statement by someone put on the chat. I can
good statement.
Ask them if it answered their question. It was by Dr. D.A. And then there's another statement that would be kind of good to read from Lynn Snyder, which kind of validates a lot of what we've been saying, which is that you need all three. So she kind of says, agree with the concepts in this presentation. However, most organizations are running down the path of big data and data lakes, which can be useful, but I have yet to see a good effort around data that ensures the data is accurate and timely for decision making. You actually need all three: KM, AI, data, map to strategy and outcomes. And you need context, process, measures, and meaning. So that kind of validates that what we're putting out is what we actually need for this to work.
Yeah, Lynn, thanks. And yeah, hopefully much of what I presented here brings that message home. However, we'll get into that even more, how to make that alignment happen next week when we are going to get into ontology next week. It's a challenging topic, but you know, it's we have to digest it. But once you do, and once you learn how to apply that, then you can begin to create those bridges across these silos. And ontology is one way to do it. And I'll give you just a hint. Instead of forcing everybody to talk the same language, which is, you know, one approach that people take in trying to bring everybody together, again, the cultural tendencies are strong. I have found better success in letting people speak the language that they speak in their own silo, but just creating through ontology, you can create those bridges that connect them. So when somebody in one organizational unit says foo one, and somebody over else calls it dipsy doodle dandy, they're talking about the same thing. Let them call it foo one and let the other people call it dipsy doodle dandy, as long as everybody knows they're talking about the same thing. So we'll get to that next week.
Excellent.
Wow. Okay, any additional questions or people, you can please speak up. And meantime, while you're speaking up, Art, you can look at the chat, and if you turn red, it will be for a good reason.
Right. All right. Let me unshare.
That's a great timing to unshare. Anyone want to add any comment, any understanding? And I would all ask you, as we are now going into the details of how KMOs can help AI, please, if you have any opportunity to try, to test, to put the foot in the door, please do on one of these and share it with us next week, the week after, or whenever it is possible. Because we are really here not only to help with good ideas, but to help with good ideas that actually, we hope, work and can change the paradigm. And that's what we're trying to do. I want to go back to Dr. DA's saying, I wouldn't say even a question. We want to change the paradigm. We want everyone to understand that we are the promise. So put a foot in the door wherever you can, and please share with us. Art, back to you.
Okay, no, that's great. Yeah, I would like to go through everybody's comments later. So if Firefly, I think it's fireflies.ai, you're the person who posts the chat. That's very helpful, and I'll definitely go through everything and make sure that we've addressed everybody's thoughts.
Okay, so thank you all, and we'll meet you next week. We have now 3 sessions with Art. Practical issues, how AI is embedded into KM, or how KM is embedded into AI, let's say even better. And then we will turn to some other issues or some other aspects of the AI project. So please stay with us. We have good things to share. Nice. Have a great day all. Bye.
Hi.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Vincent, are you back to Bangkok?
Not to Bangkok. I'm back to the south of France. Yes. I will go back to Bangkok in 10 days from now. Yes.
And
But I'm
US? You have a shot of US in France?
yeah, well, it was from Bangkok, yes. So it's it's imported to France from Bangkok, but originally from US.
That's rather cynical. And will you have to be in isolation when you return home?
Yeah, so there are 2-week quarantine still in place. In fact, things are not doing so well currently in Thailand. So there's a growing number of cases, and because of the vaccination has taken a long time to get started. And but they did something which is if there is an island, Phuket Island, that they are using as a sandbox. So if you are vaccinated, and if you fly to Phuket Island, you can stay 2 weeks. You do your quarantine on the island, not stuck in a hotel, but you can go on the island as much as you want. And after these 2 weeks, so we will be able to re-enter Thailand. So that's a way to try to get some tourists back to come to Thailand, not to completely kill the tourist activities, but you have to fly directly to Phuket, and most of the time fly back home. So there is it's a very controlled environment, only for people who have been vaccinated, and you need to take a lot of PCR tests also all along your stay. So they are taking very limited risk in doing so. They have mainly all the people who live on this island have been vaccinated also, so they are trying their best to create a safe zone, but there is no such thing as safety. I mean, there still has been already a couple of cases of COVID that came through this protocol, but it's still. So I will go through these 2 weeks on a nice island to be on quarantine, and then I will be able to go back to Bangkok. Yeah.
I may add that I was 10 years ago or so in Phuket.
Yeah.
And it's the closest thing to paradise I ever saw on earth.
Yes, I don't have to complain.
And I was also in Seychelles, which is a marvelous place.
Yes.
But
indeed, yeah.
Seychelles is only number 2.
Okay, wow.
No doubt that Phuket wins it.
Yeah, it's a nice place to be. There's a worse place to be in quarantine for sure. Yes, yeah, I
But-
agree.
Please be safe, take care, because as you say, that are also people that are getting sick there. So please, you have to be safe
Yes.
for our sake. We
Yes.
love you too much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think, yeah, I mean, with this variant coming up, yeah, we never know. Even so you're vaccinated, you're not sure if how much, yeah, but it looks like the vaccine will help anyway not to get too worse
Right.
sick really too much. But at